Ahead with the regular agenda, and we'll let you take a break.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Our committee, as it's carried out its responsibilities, has held a number of meetings such as this. We have also divided into subcommittees, since in 90 days we don't have time for the entire committee to do everything, because we all, of course, have other responsibilities as well. The major groups we've divided ourselves into relate to some of the current activities, specifically the Shuttle program and ISS and its future. Secondly, into transport from Earth to near-Earth orbit. And thirdly, beyond near-Earth orbit. And fourthly, an integration group that's addressing such issues as international involvement, coordination with other agencies of the departments of the U.S. government, and particularly industrial involvement in the program and other factors of that type. As you could tell, those subjects are closely interrelated. They affect each other both technically and budgetarily. And given that, there's a great deal of integration that has to be done that has not yet been done. So today you're going to hear a briefing from the fourth of those groups. The other three have been briefed prior in other meetings like this one. And that fourth group is the one that's been addressing beyond near-Earth orbit. And they will be talking about some of the options, keying those options to goals. And then when we leave here, we will be focusing on integrating what you hear this morning with the work of others. This group has been led by Ed Crawley. He, as you know, is a former chairman of the Department of Aerospace Engineering at MIT, currently a professor there. And I need to state that the professor finished his homework about 20 minutes ago. So Ed, you're up.
Thank you, Norm. In my business, there is no margin. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and those of you out in cyberspace listening to this. This committee has addressed the questions of why we explore, where we should explore, and how we should explore. This is an enormous scope of opportunity space that we have before us. As Bob Cabana said in his last comment, the nation needs a program that is inspirational and sustainable. And we will try to address that question today. The actual presentation starts with an introduction by me and then goes to evaluation measures by my colleague Wanda Austin, a bit of science evaluation by Chris Chiba, a discussion of exploration options and measurements that I'll come back for, then a set of scenarios that we commissioned study of, an issue of the transportation issues that support those scenarios, recommendations from the subgroup to the full committee for discussion. This is the charter of the subgroup. In short, it's to identify options for consideration by the committee of the goals for exploration beyond low Earth orbit, the destinations beyond low Earth orbit, the means of reaching these destinations, and the costs that would be associated with them, keeping in mind the budgetary guidance that has been provided to us. Norm, I want to offer to the committee these pieces of wisdom. I used to have what they called astronaut eyes in the old days, but I can't quite read that little screen out there, so I thought I'd fall back to the old-fashioned paper in front of me here. Norm, I'd like to offer this insight into the elements of a desirable lunar program, and I'll let you read it. But in short, it says it should fit in the time and economic framework of the nation. It should use the building blocks of the present spaceflight program. It should have a good probability of early accomplishment, possess flexibility, but have immediate potential for limited operational capability, be adaptable for rapid expansion, have project cost in balance with expected returns, not require a huge single funding commitment, and be within the foreseeable NASA budget and be attractive to the public and the security interests. This seemed to us to be reasonable guidance for a future lunar program. In fact, it comes from the NASA archives from a presentation by George Low on January 5th, 1961, 15 days before the inauguration of John Kennedy. This was the space program of the Eisenhower administration, which was to go beyond low Earth orbit and go as you pay. Eisenhower was a fiscal conservative and thought that this was an appropriate way to explore space. What John Kennedy did was that he changed it from a go as you pay to a go in the decade program. First, by making in his famous speech of May 1961, where he said we should go and land a man on the moon and return him safely before the end of the decade. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for long-range exploration of space, and none will be so difficult or expensive to accomplish. This was a bold vision. We choose to do these things not because they are easy, but because they are hard, because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Well, of course, 12 Americans succeeded by the end of the decade in walking on the moon, a success that we still commemorate, even most recently in the last week. There was no shortage of vision at the end of Apollo. Here is the roadmap that was laid out by the Apollo planning team in 1969. You probably can't see the chart, so I'll give you a sense. The first line is Earth orbital elements, which would have a space station beyond Skylab by 1975. A more permanent lunar presence by 1982. Planetary exploration, including landing on the Martian surface by the mid-'80s, and the space shuttle, a nuclear shuttle, and a Mars excursion module, which looks strikingly like Orion, by the late '80s. In short, by 1990, the plan had 100 humans in low Earth orbit, 49 humans on the moon, and 72 humans in the Martian surface. This was a bold vision. Unfortunately, the politics did not support the bold vision. In the early 1970s, after the Apollo program, and particularly after Apollo 13, the political organizations of the nation reassessed the risk-reward structure in view of the then current downward economic climate, and President Nixon flipped the switch. President Eisenhower, President Kennedy, and President Johnson had called for an exploration program beyond low Earth orbit, and President Nixon redefined the space program to be one that would exploit low Earth orbit. The shuttle was developed. As the shuttle came into operation, President Reagan approved the space station program as a fundamental element of our foreign policy. The picture in the lower left is he and Margaret Thatcher at the White House looking at a model of the space station, which President Reagan sought to use to cement the alliance of the so-called Western or democratic nations against the evil empire, as he would have called it. Before the space station was built, the Berlin Wall came down, and a new foreign policy task was assigned to travel to low Earth orbit, that of building an alliance of both the United States and its former allies and the new partners, including the Russians. In 2004, President Bush flipped the switch again. There are fundamentally only two human spaceflight policies: only go to low Earth orbit or go beyond low Earth orbit. And our committee has been charged to examine what the right plan is to go back beyond low Earth orbit, beyond LEO again. We're all familiar with this vision: to fly out the shuttle, develop what was then called CEV, return to the moon, and extend human presence beyond, across the solar system and beyond. What President Bush essentially did was to return to the space policy of President Eisenhower. Go beyond low Earth orbit and go as you pay. The most interesting thing, I think, in this speech was the passage that almost slipped by, but reminds the American people that since 1972, no human has set foot in another world or ventured farther upward into space than 386 miles, roughly the distance from Washington, D.C. to Boston, Massachusetts. 386 miles is as far as we have reached away from Earth in over 30 years. It's time to change that. Candidate Obama said when he would be elected, we would have a vigorous debate on the future direction of the space program, and once we have a sense of what's going to be most valuable for us in terms of gain knowledge, then I think we'll be able to adjust the budget so that we're going all out on what it is we have decided to do. Our panel has been asked to make recommendations to the President on what it is we have decided to do, but the record shows that in 2006 and 2008, both a Democratic and Republican-controlled Congress vigorously supported the venture beyond low Earth orbit. There is a national consensus to do this. So why do we explore? I do not believe that the rationale for space exploration should rest solely on workforce and industrial base. I believe it should be to inspire the nation, to provide an opportunity for humanity to move off the planet. And I'm joined in that sentiment by my colleagues on the subcommittee. Our view that we recommend to the full committee is that we explore to chart a path for human expansion to the solar system. That the moon is a way along this, but Mars should be the intermediate destination for this exploration. The ultimate goal should be staying off the planet. Norm, it was very interesting in this process how such a diverse group of people as the 5 of us who were on our committee with such diverse backgrounds so quickly and unanimously came to this position. So why do we explore? We've defined a set of topics which, Norm, we're going to recommend when Wanda comes up in a minute, form the basis of the evaluation system that we will use for the options in our consideration and presentation to the White House. Why we explore? If Mars is the ultimate goal, then part of our real role in exploration up until that point should be to prepare for further exploration. How can we develop our exploration systems so they will directly support and enable future missions of exploration? How will they develop technology? How will NASA rebuild, how can we rebuild NASA as a developer of new technologies that enable its future growth and serve as a much-needed engine of economic growth for the nation? Science is an important reason to go into space, but as my colleague Chris Chiba points out, we have to be very careful about rationalizing human spaceflight in terms of its scientific objectives, and in a few minutes Chris is going to speak to that point. But it's undoubtedly true that for the time being we live on Earth. So the question is, what can we learn about our planet by studying others? The National Space Policy calls for exploration beyond LEO to support the scientific, commercial, and security interests of the nation. And in fact, we think there is an important role in stimulating the emerging commercial space industry. How can we explore in such a way as to stimulate this industry so that it takes up increasingly a larger share of the traffic to low Earth orbit and it becomes economically competitive in the world stage? In fact, as we speak, there are commercial ventures to build commercially funded rockets to low Earth orbit, commercially funded spacecraft that would carry cargo and humans, and commercially funded orbital facilities. We need to support and stimulate these. All successful human spaceflight projects have fundamentally been instruments of foreign policy. We have to have a strong rationale for going beyond low Earth orbit as a mechanism of creating the new sort of alliance, the alliance that will allow the United States to provide soft leadership in the world. We need more opportunities, as shown in these two pictures, of ground ops and flight ops being carried out by colleagues from around the world. And we explore to expand human civilization. First, in such a way as to protect our planet. The image on the left was a surprise. While we were all watching Neil and Buzz in the White House, a body struck the planet Jupiter, creating a hole in its atmosphere the size of the Earth. We were not tracking this body. Part of the role of exploration beyond LEO is to understand the bodies that might cross our paths and to prepare for the eventuality or certainty that one day one of them will come very close to the Earth. The other part of human civilization is, of course, to prepare for the opportunities for us to become a species that might someday live on two planets. We explore in order to provide benefit to the public. They are the primary stakeholders, the people, the nation, the school children, the young people. This is a picture of a bunch of enthusiastic people looking up at a shuttle launch. This is the way that we engaged the public in the 20th century. We have to build a space program that engages the people in the 21st century, that's new, that's exciting, that allows them to go online and get involved, that allows them to engage and participate. And in doing so, we will engage our youth and stimulate their interest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, helping provide a stream of workforce that is critical to the strategic national interests of the nation.